With day, let us wonder anew. With night, be curious of the stars. And then, with loving care, be blessed to share with one another what we have learned. Precious words of wisdom Romy Badilski has carried with her since Sunday school in the 2nd grade. As a little girl, Romy heard them simply as a rabbi's warm wishes for the coming year. Never would she have imagined one day they would be her life's touchstone. At the age of 36, in exile from an embittered relationship that had ended after 12 years, Romy had lost all sense of hope. It had been year upon year of emotional trauma, assault on her character, censorship of her every word and deed, threats, insults, isolation, estrangement from family and friends, and inevitably, abandonment of her most heartfelt ideals and interests. From how she dressed and did her hair, to her love for reading and writing, to the joy she felt from the creative arts. With such loss, it was no wonder Romy had become so demoralized, emotionally numb, overwhelmed with criticism, overwrought with insecurities, and overly apologetic at just about every turn. Tragically burned out from all the lies and deceit proffered to her as the gospel. The only truth was that Romy had come to lose her sense of self, and her loss of identity had taken its toll. With all of the intimidation she endured, and all of the mocking she would hear, day upon day, year upon year, it was simply too much. Romy had come to question her every memory, perception, sense, and sensibility, always doing a double take, always asking herself, did I do that? Did it really happen that way? It was always just argument upon pointless argument with her spouse, and all of his empty apologies and wordplay. I'm so sorry you feel that way. I'm so sorry for the hurt you think I caused, would he say. All before his well-choreographed invitations for loveless intimacy, affection, and material gifts to silence Romy and fulfill his own needs. To tell her to just get over it, verbally, emotionally, and mentally dominating her. This is what they call gaslighting, Romy would come to learn, as she lay restlessly awake at night exploring social media. It was so obvious in the blogs, the Facebook discussion threads, the podcasts, the YouTube videos. Yes, this was gaslighting. For Romy, it was daunting at first to come to this realization. But she had one saving grace, and she knew it. A token known only to her. It needed to be that way, just in case. Romy had always taken her rabbi's principles and worldviews to heart. Himself a profile in courage, her rabbi was a leader in the civil rights movement, literally bludgeoned to protect the voting rights of blacks during the 1960s. With her rabbi's mentorship, Romy had come to appreciate his New Year's wishes for her childhood were in fact virtues to be cherished for life. As Romy saw it now, what her rabbi was really saying is that companionship is a blessing, that we can experience together the joy of discovery, always have new things to learn, and look forward always to finding meaning and purpose, and to sharing life's lessons with kindness, generosity, and love. For Romy, it was an epiphany. She would hold on tight to her rabbi's teachings from once upon a time as a token of her innocence, with moral compass securely in hand, knowing day in and day out she was never alone, that she need roam no longer for peace of mind, because it was more than okay to ask for help and need a hand. It was her birthright to question and learn, to marvel in life's mysteries, to voice her opinions and ideas, to love, to be loved, to be needed, to matter, and to carry on no matter what. A new roadway of inner peace awaited, with first steps escorted by family history. Romy began to learn more and more of her ancestry.
A descendant herself of the centuries-old Jewish diaspora in the shtetls of Eastern Europe, Romy saw herself as a second-generation survivor of the Kamieniec-Podilsky Ukraine massacre of August 1941. And with that sight, Romy felt she had no choice. Never again, as she had always thought of it. That massacre was essentially Hitler's piloting of the final solution. All Romy could think, neither she nor her name would ever die in vain. And certainly not with all of the current events that told her the courage to survive must go on. And with her people, it surely does.
Romy's resilience would come to shine through. The stroke of a pen, the brush of acrylics, and a canvas of inspiration in cue. Romy had all that she needed for liberation.
She picked up the journaling book she'd written off for years.
She even learned the wonderment of digital artistry and photography.
He could demean and disavow her of importance all he wanted.
But Romy knew better this time around. For too long had she been submissive and scared. For too long, cold and desolate in a household lacking the heart and hearth of a home. Ruminative and drained, she knew that was all now quite unacceptable. Room would be made now only for mindfulness and meditation, composure, creativity, and a renewed spirit for life. And so was reborn Romy's spiritual counsel with her rabbi. She had a guiding light of meaningfulness, brighter than ever. From her journaling and artwork would come letter upon letter to her rabbi.
Ironically enough, Romy would find, it was safer than she thought.
Because in all of her years of being with him, she realized he knew nothing of her personal interests. Her spouse would be able to name not one friend that Romy had always held near and dear,
but who'd now lost touch under the shadow of Romy's fear of keeping them in her life. With a rabbi's guidance and spirit, Romy would once again consider her reasons for living.
She would begin to relieve the discord within herself. Romy's diaries would be her own personal renaissance, as her love for art and literature and the humanities would resurface. With her voice silvery and resonant, and now more resolved than ever. From reveries by day to a dreamscape of healing and rediscovery of herself by night. Within the dimension of her dream work, beyond her written words, even more stories, more memoirs would rise from the depths of Romy's heart and soul. The stories of ordinary people flowing into a stream of consciousness beyond words. Lucid dreams, eloquent narratives, and vivid imagery of people who could be any one of us. From all walks of life, in our own homes, schools, and neighborhoods.
From our communities and society, the world over.
All of these stories arising from the still glowing embers of Romy's heart and soul.
And with their narrative would come to rise one Romy Podilsky, for the first time in her adulthood, perhaps even for the first time in her entire life. And as she held on to her soul were born the gaslighting memoirs, inspired stories of what it can truly mean to be reborn, to learn from experience, no matter how brutal. Because when you discover meaningfulness in life, and you breathe life anew, stronger than ever before, well, the smog of the mental abuse that we today know as gaslighting, it clears way for self-discovery and a new journey in life.
One without blindsiding smoke and mirrors of all that disdain projected, truly, from someone else's miseries.
Instead, now comes enlightenment.
Clarity, catharsis of pain, transcended to serenity of meaning and purpose. With realization of who you once were at heart before the gaslighting burns. With recognition of who you truly are today. With the blessing of keeping your soul alive and well. Come witness this rebirth of spirit with Elsie Barron's new book series, The Gaslighting Memoirs. A read of the human spirit like you've never seen before, and one that you will never forget.